Do you find that you look for a protector in your partner?
Yes. 100%. That's what we're up to.
Make it loud, make it loud.
That's the yes, it is, because I know that the only time, like I said, like yourself, you said before, I don't know if it's in this before, but the only way that you got to your black culture side of your life was through your partner, and that's the only ways that now I have kind of like connections with, again, that feeling sense of family and protection. Because my family on my mom's side is so small. It's me, my mom, nan and granddad. I have an auntie and uncle and 2 cousins.
Wow.
So there must have been like a point where I was obviously always searching. And I think I just always wanted to feel like I had someone protecting me. Because I didn't want to tell my mom about the stuff that I was going through. Like, when I was like 12 years old, it sounds stupid that I was in a relationship, but like, you know what you're dating when you're 12. You don't do anything. You just boyfriend and girlfriend by title. But this guy was like mad abusive to me. Mad abusive. And I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. Didn't talk to my mom about it because obviously he just threatened to hurt me, or did hurt me if I did say I was going to tell someone. And I felt like even if I did tell my mom can't really protect me in the same way that a man could. And
why didn't you necessarily feel like your granddad could protect you?
That was what I was going to ask.
Because I feel like my grandparents are very grandparenty. And they have a lot
What does that mean?
They feel like they're the people.
They're tea, coffee, and biscuit grandparents.
Tea, coffee, and kisses. They took me to castles, and they say, "How was your day?" And they're so excited for me, and they want to do things. And it's not like yo, what's going on? Like, we're gonna rough up that person.
Back your beef.
They would if they knew, but I would never tell them because they've always felt like amazing grandparents, and I almost didn't want my grandparents. Because my grandparents love me so much, I've never wanted them to even worry about me. And my mom was always panicked. My mom used to follow me into town when I was in high school because she didn't.
Don't laugh, that was my mum too.
Yeah. I used to think I was independent going on the bus to town. She was actually jumping on the bus too without me seeing. And then I'd go to the cinema with my friends. She'd sit outside the cinema and wait for me. And then I'd go home and I had no idea till years later. She did this for a couple of years.
I feel very neglected.
Why do you think your mum was so protective then?
Only child. Maybe because there wasn't anyone else protecting me in that same sense. I don't know.
So, okay, that's okay. No. Why do you feel like your mum wasn't the protector?
Because I didn't me and my mum had like because it was just me and her. We've always been more like sisters than mother-daughter.
Okay.
I feel you on that one.
I never wanted to tell my mom, like, oh, I've got all these problems going on. I was quite kind of anti as a teenager.
It was more because you didn't want to tell her than you thought she couldn't protect you.
Yeah, more so. Like, she was already panicked about me going and doing things anyway with friends. What if I told her there's a guy that's coming and punching me in the face and spitting in my face? And that's literally, like, I don't know how she'd just panic. And yes, in hindsight, as an adult, I look back thinking, yeah, I should have told her 100%. Like, she probably doesn't even know to this day that it all went on. Yeah. And then, but like when I'm 12 years old and he's threatening
it makes sense
to hurt me if I tell anyone, I'm not telling no one anyway. But I felt like if I had a male figure in my life, that I would have been able to more feel like, oh, he's like, it doesn't matter what he's saying because we're going to make sure. Whereas my mom's, in a sense, a gentlish woman.
Yeah, if your mom's panicked, if you know that your mom's a panic kind of person, that doesn't give the same energy vibe as a
man who's going to go in there. There could have been a woman who was that same strong energy, but my mom was a panicker, not a.
My mom, she would be back in that beef. Yeah, she'd be there like, welcome to death row. She'd be on it. Laura, you made an interesting point that you look for a protector in your partner. Mm-hmm. Is there any other qualities that you feel like you've missed out on not having a dad that you would also look for in a partner?
There's the sense of, I've only ever dated black guys. So I feel like, I don't know why, but it's just always, and that's just always been the case. And there's definitely a draw where I feel more a sense. I feel when I'm with a black family, I feel at home. Mm-hmm. I do. Like, I just have that, even though they're often Caribbean and I'm Nigerian, so it's not the same. But like, I don't feel like if I was necessarily sometimes with a white person, would they understand that? And because I have been so detached from my culture, it's nice to have someone that I am with that brings that culture back into me so that I can live that life, so that they can make me watch films that black films that I've just never even heard of when I was a kid, or like
It's culture as opposed to
yeah,
race.
I only knew Candy when I was like 25. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not going to be just playing anywhere. Like I had to learn this new dance, whatever, which is now just a staple. But like it's crazy, and because I was never at family events, because that's where they happen. I was at discos where they were playing YMCA.
Cha-cha slide.
That's so funny. But like yeah, so I feel like culture is something that I look for in a partner. So when they have a great family and I get to be involved in that, that's something that I've missed. And then also the fact that it is a family unit, and the fact that my family's so small and I didn't have like family events, and you know, when I get to go with a family and I get to spend like church with them or do those other things, like it's like I built, like my mum's always been so happy when I've met someone, and it's like, oh, it's just so nice that you've just got a family to be with. You know, there's multiple places where I could go for Christmas, and that's just like a really nice feeling. So I feel like culture, I look for in a partner someone who can bring culture into me as well, and keep that. Someone who can protect me and make me feel like I'm safe and secure, and I don't have to worry because abandonment issues and trust issues and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I think I know I want to have my own family. So then when I find someone that I one who can then, it's just like my mom was a single mom, and I think that I could be a good single mom, but I think I'd be better with a partner because I knew how it was like when I grew up, how I felt like I missed something. So I want my kids, if possible, to hopefully have the father in their life so that they don't feel like... Because I don't have any like family members that can be the acting father figure. Mm-hmm. Literally my friends. You guys would be taking on the father figure of my child if I didn't have a thing.
I'd be a 30 child.
I would have never thought about that, but you're so right. You don't really have that father figure. That's...
These guys
worrying,
are kind of my...
But then
it's funny you say that, because if you look at the friends and obviously the partner I've had in my life, everybody's so much older than me. Like I'm 22, Jamal, you're coming on 50 now.
Man's just seasoned, that's all it is.
Like all my closest friends are older males, late 20s, 30s. My child's father was 11 years older than me. Like, I feel like I'm looking for a dad in all of you, subconsciously.
And that's where my daddy issues come in.
Yeah.
Have you been to therapy for it?
I've had therapy, not so much because of that. Obviously, I knew it stemmed from that. But I had like a whole issue of depression and like self-harm and all that. So I've had like my therapy for that. But I've never been able to maintain friendships. Like, I'm very like a defensive person, and my abandonment issues, when I knew that, when I was like, had my female friends growing up, I've had such bad life. I never really knew the true meaning of friend until I met my group now. Because they were all pricks. But, you know, I've had such bad experiences with like these other females in my life, but I've noticed a pattern. Like when I feel like I'm gonna fall out with someone, I would lock them off before they could do it to me, because I can't like handle that rejection type of thing. But it's not until obviously like Jamal, like Dougie, like Dwayne, all of you guys, older men, until I had the friendships with them, that I've actually been able to maintain those friendships. Like, it's insane that I've sort of dwelled on that recently. But women just can't do it. Sorry, guys. Y'all are evil.
For a long time, I was the same. It was more circumstantial for me, though.
Laura's looking at me like, I'm a good friend.
No, but I do hear what you're saying, because I gravitate more towards... I don't want to say men, because not necessarily grown men like you said, but definitely
I don't
men.
like how you said grown men. Like,
yeah, not like the old
I'm
lot.
still young out here, you know.
Jamal, granddad, please.
Please.
Oh my gosh, this guy's listening to Jim Reeves on his way home. Yeah, but I think that's more because I was raised by my mom, who was very boisterous, and my granddad was such an instrumental figure, because my granddad, honestly, he's the best. Like, he was the one that would build Legos with me, toy cars, rough and tumble. Like, my granddad, I'll just walk up to him and like punch him playfully, and he'll like tackle me, you know, as a joke and stuff like that. So I grew up, because he never had a son, almost as the boy and the girl now, you know, like I was very much treated as a little boy in my own ways. My mum used to dress me in boys' clothes or whatever because she didn't care. And I thought that was why I liked having lads, because I say not boys. I don't like having boys around because they irritate me. But, you know, a group of lads, I find that men are so funny, you know, how man banter, that resonates with me, how men aren't, it's not all she said and he said and this,
bitchiness.
none of that. Men are just like, your trim's dead, all right. Get on with life. Do you know? And I like that because I'm the same. I'm like, listen, that outfit, darling, it's not cutting it. And then, do you know, and my female friends are like that. So they're still very masculine women. But I've never thought about it in the way in which you've brought it, to say that you're looking for a dad, because I don't think I'm looking for a dad in any of them. All of my male friends are very different. So I can't say they're all much older or they're all one race, or like with
what
your
if
men,
it's like
nothing.
a quality from each of them that you'd want as like your father subconsciously? How do you know?
I've reflected on that. But none of them I'd want as a dad, or any of their traits. The only thing I can say is their consistency. My male friends show up, like, honest, Aaron, Adam, etc., Peter. They are, you know, when I'm out with them, people don't even question, because they're so used to them being around me. These are my brothers. Like, they come to my house and they stay for however long they want. As soon as I got off the plane 2 weeks ago, same day, Kari, one of my good guy friends, he came, he brought flowers, he was coming sit with my nan, my sister, myself. You know, they're show up kind of people, where I find women are like, you know, and I must say my female circle now are definitely show up women. But as you said, there's a lot of women that just aren't. A lot of women.
How old are you, sorry?
I'm 21, 22 in November.
Okay, so
But
you're the youngest.
a lot of my
right
circle,
now,
a lot of my circle is older though. But it's not only just men. I have a lot of older women too. So that's why I can't say there's a trend. They're not all shy. They're not all big. There's no consistency in my male friends. It either works or it doesn't. But the only one thing I can say is these people are consistent. I don't have to worry about loyalty at all. I know that everybody in my circle is refined. They're there for a reason, because they've proved to me that I'm loved and that, you know, it's a valid relationship. But more importantly, these people show up for me just as I show up for them. And maybe because my dad never showed up, maybe that's why I value it so much. But I don't think I'm seeking a father in them at all. I think I'm seeking a brother. I don't look for protection from them or anything like that. I think I could protect myself. And I'm very strong in that regard. I don't feel like I need a bouncer. Like, I'm cool, you know, like, and that's not to say I think I'm big and bad. Not at all. Not at all. I never get into drama either, though, to say that. So it's not like I have to protect myself because I think there's something going on with somebody. I'm never in drama. I'm very unproblematic. But equally, I think that's because I hang with guys.
I feel like I'm the complete opposite, because you guys definitely look after me.
Yeah,
but do you feel like you drop them if they didn't?
No. Because I love them all for like individual qualities, but they definitely do look out for me. And I feel like as I said earlier, like it wasn't until I've had this group of friends that I've sort of really knew the true meaning of a friend.
Wow.
Like, you've been there, you guys have been there through like shit that I've been through. Like my whole pregnancy, like my one friend, he was just there with me all the time. Like calling me most days, coming and chilling with me, having me at his house. Like, we're just doing fun stuff, which was really nice. Not you, Jamal. You didn't message me once, and I'm joking. But like, even my mom's noticed it. Like, she came back off holiday with one of my friends like yesterday, and she was like, "Shan, I had a conversation with him, and I was just saying, like, you've been there for Shan through everything. Like, you've been such a good friend." And I'm thinking, like, right, they've really been there, like, for a lot. You lot must think I'm a little psychopath.
It's nice when you find your people, though. I'm glad you do. And I'm glad that even though it may stem from something quite dangerous, that you have found whatever male figures you feel like you need.
Jamal's sitting there like, I don't even like this girl.
Get her off the podcast, please. Cut it.
Did I sign up for this?
He's like, oh shit, what did I get into?
No, you guys have been there like you guys have been there for like what, 10 years for me? So it's been mad. That's why I look at you all like brothers. So it's, yeah, you can't even talk about the love I have for all of you guys as people. Because
he's getting a massive ego boost right
Literally.
now. Look at his face.
Yeah. And the other one standing in the corner too. Shout out to Tashan.
Like, yeah.
Put his details in the chat as well.
Tashan doesn't need any more ego.
I've called on you a countless times and you've never let me down. And that's something that, you know, I've never been able to have with any father figure in a sense.
Jamal's crying right now.
And again, it's not like, okay, again, my granddad would always be there for me, but it's like there's different things I don't like to burden them. But the first drama I ever really needed to let them know about was there was a threat to my life made, and I just suddenly didn't know how to act. And I don't know if that's because maybe because I didn't have a father figure in the house who was just literally there, like constantly, like, you know, because like my mum didn't really like vet the boy I was seeing in a sense, like, you know, I mean, a guy's more like, oh, what's this and everything, and because maybe the guy never felt like there was any threat from him. I don't think he looked at my mum and thought, oh, this is a threat, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing to this girl. Maybe if there's a dad there, he would not have smashed my head into the brick wall.
I think that's why for girls, dads are important, or like at least strong male figures.
Yeah.
Because I think especially when it comes to choosing men, men need to help you choose men.
I completely
agree.
agree with that. 1,000%. I agree with that, because men will see something that women might overlook, and that I believe is priceless, because that is normally what a dad would do. Whereas I know in my heart that if I'm to bring somebody home, I introduce them to my bros, and I know my bros will vet him. I don't have to, you know, all of the names that I've listed, even more of them. My guy friends, they're not the intimidating sort. They won't come in, oh, I'm going to fight you. They're not that sort, but they will definitely background check him in such a discreet way he won't even realise he's been screened. And that, I think, is similarly to what a dad would do, because equally my granddad will shake his hand and, you know, what you're doing, and, you know, and gently vet him as well. Whereas
I like the way you say gently.
Yeah,
I couldn't bring a guy around you guys.
Nah. If you used to bring a guy around us, there would be no like, harsh, like, so what, you're gonna look at
No.
It's like, it would be, it's just, we'll ask questions. Like, I like to ask people questions. I'll ask him questions, and from them questions, I will gauge what he's on, what he's about, if he's ready, like what he's, a man. Men need to vet men. If you think that you can ask your girls, dead.
No, but the thing is, like, my dad spoke to the partner that I've got, and then he was like, he actually, because he was always like, he's always wanted to come, and I've always been a bit like, I just don't know how this is going to go down. I think he wanted to meet my partner's family, and I've always been a bit like, do we have to? Because we had this graduation and I didn't like the way that went. And like now I'm like, oh, it's 2.0. I'm like, if I get married, is he there? If he sees this, he's going to be like, yes, I am. He then said like, oh yeah, I want a phone call with him. So they exchanged numbers, or I must have gave one number the other, and they must have been on the phone for like an hour. And he was doing the whole dad thing of like, oh, what is your intentions with my daughter and all of that kind of stuff.
Does he have rights to do that if he was?
Yeah, it's not really. I more did it because I thought it was funny. It was like a funny joke. I thought like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put this guy through an hour talking to my dad. That's actually quite amusing. But like, in a sense, he doesn't know me. Can he really protect me?
Do you know what? I understand that. My dad also, obviously now I have a child, he was like, can I meet like her dad's? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It may be good to say yes. Because I think, you know what, I get it. It's like what you said, if you don't know me, do you have a right? You said, do you have a right? And it's like, no, he doesn't have a right. But him not having the right to don't mean that he's not going to see something in this person which ain't good for you. And like, it just because he ain't been shit for you. A lot of people, it's like, they may treat their family like shit, but no one else can't treat their family like shit. So it's like, yeah, I may move wild, but I'm going to make sure this guy ain't moving wild. So that's why it's like, your dad don't have a right. And it's like, it's almost, it's cheeky. But at the same time, your dad knows what a dickhead man is like.
Because he is one.
Exactly. So your dad knows, all right, I moved in that way when I was this. Same way I may know, that's how I was going on when I was thinking this way. So if a man's moving how I was going on when I weren't right for nobody,
I just
your man ain't right for nobody.
I don't feel like I trust him, because I don't
His
know
opinion.
him. Yeah. I don't trust him.
No,
Not like,
I get what you're
he's
saying.
done
I get
something
what you're
wrong
saying
for me to
still.
break the trust, but
Yeah.
because I have like, if I was worried about something and I told you guys, like, I've built trust up with you, but because there hasn't been that trust, I don't think he'd like fob me over, but like I just don't.
So it just depends
how that would even happen or work.
It depends how you think in general. So it's like, for me, I don't need to trust someone to potentially take on board what they've said and think, do they have a point? But it just depends, because some people, it would be like, all right, well, no, I'm not really going to take on board what you say. I don't trust your words. So from you start talking at you now.
But it's like, do you even approach that person if you don't trust them? Like, I've never thought,
yeah. No, I'm not
why
saying
you have a blank stare every time
I'm
I
not
talk
saying
to
you should approach your dad.
Yeah,
I wouldn't approach your dad for advice, but I'm saying if your dad was like, can I speak to him?
Yeah. Then I let that happen.
Yeah.
I let that happen, but it's not like I'd go out my way because he's not that male figure in my life.
That makes complete sense. That why you wouldn't go to him.
Just because of distance.
What would you want?
I feel like I got to a point when I just thought it's almost like I wanted a clean slate and to start my own family and have the dynamic right. I don't know if I could even go back to, but I feel like I don't know, maybe I could if I went to Nigeria and I met people in real life, but then I feel like they're so far away, they're not here still. It's not like a cousin that lives 5 minutes down the road. I don't have anyone that's local like that. Everyone who was here lived in London, so that's a bit detached there anyways, and it's a bit difficult.
But may I jump in then? Because you mentioned about raising a family. Would you want your dad to be a granddad to your children?
I have never even thought about the fact that he would be a granddad to my child until that very moment.
You've basically said you don't want your dad to be a granddad.
It's not. I don't know.
See, when I came to my mum with that, because before you answer, I asked my mum a few years ago, I was like, if I ever have children, do I let dad meet them? And she went, I can't make that decision for you, baby. You have to make it yourself at the time. And I said, yeah, but why would I want him to mess about my children? And then my mom replied, just because he messed you about doesn't mean that he'll mess your children about. He might be the world's best granddad on the planet. Like, he might just be fantastic. And you've interrupted that relationship. But then equally, I'm kind of on your side of the fence with, I don't trust it. Why would I expose my children
my dad
to
could
excess
never.
harm,
Prior to my dad dying, he could never. That'd be insane. Like, he hasn't proved himself to be a man I respect.
Yeah.
So how am I gonna let a man I don't respect be around my child?
And that's
Mad.
Also, that was
Mad.
That was it. And it was only my mom's point of view about just because he was rubbish to you doesn't mean he'll be rubbish to the grandkids. But I don't like that risk.
See, that there is taking a risk with my child.
Yeah.
I ain't taking risks with my child.
I hear that.
So is it?
I think especially like from my point of view, like the trauma that I feel like I've been through and had to deal with, like the thought of me ever having my child go through that, like it would actually break me.
And because you've caused it.
Yeah.
You've allowed it to happen. I understand.
I mean, like, I know like a granddad's not as sort of important as a father role, but no, I wouldn't want to have my child around anybody that I don't trust myself.
Do you feel like you have friends or family that is almost like the father figure for your children as well as the father as well? Like the more, because you've like talked about like multiple people.
Like, that's why I'm not super bothered at this point in my life. Obviously, I don't have children. I'm not married, so I don't really have to consider it seriously right now. But I don't have to really deep my dad will be a granddad one day, because my granddad will be my children's granddad. My dad was very much my dad, so then it will work that he's kind of a granddad to them. And my stepdad will be a granddad, and he'll be a wicked one. My granddad and my stepdad, between them, my child has the best granddad, So I've never had to think about that. But then equally, you've not really had many men around in your family, right? It was you. And then you don't really feel like you'd want your dad to have a relationship. So then who would be granddad? Because
obviously my granddad, he's around. Like, he's done so much for her already. Like, obviously she was born with a couple health conditions, and he was the one taking like coming to the hospital trips with me and all that type of stuff. But she's got her uncles, and then she's got like all my friends. Her dads. No, I'm joking. But I've just totally neglected him. He's in her life. But yeah.
Is that relationship how you would want it to be, or do you think history's repeating itself?
Oh, deep.
I think it's valid, no?
No, it is very valid, but I've definitely fucked that one up.
What do you mean by you fucked that one up?
Like, history repeating itself. Not so much like the extent of what my dad was, but like my relationship with him hasn't been the greatest. So it's like I've always had that fear, like, oh, is she going to have that same upbringing as me? And that's shown in some of the conflicts I've had with him. Jamal's looking at me like, idiot.
Has a good
I ain't saying that.
Life happens.
Yeah,
and
it does.
it's easy for us on the outside to be like, well, you should have moved differently, but who's to say, you know? I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I know people with parents that are together that are way more harmed than somebody like me whose parents have been separated most of my life. Like, these people are damaged, but yeah, they're from a 2-parent household, so they'll be fine. But that is foolishness. I think we need to dismiss that narrative because, especially in the Black community, it's so fantastic if you're from 2 parents. Like, wow, have you seen him? Like, they've got a mum and a dad, and it's like, that's great, but the house is so...
The 2 most damaged people I have ever known both have their mum and their dad.
Precisely. And then people will look at us with the 1 parent, or I say I have 4 parents because I definitely see my mom, my stepdad, and my grandparents on the same level. So me with my 4 parents. And they might be like, oh, she's from a broken home. What does that mean? I have been 4 times as loved. And if I had, like, maybe if my dad played his role appropriately, nobody else would have felt the need to step in.
Do you know what? I hate
would have
this as
lost
well,
love.
of how, like, coming from a broken home is such an insult, especially to women as well.
Huge.
Because people love to insult women and put the blame on women for the fact that they're fatherless. And I've never understood why that's an insult to women when it's a father that's failing to be a man. Like, it makes no sense at all.
Sometimes 2 people being separated is the best thing that could happen to the child, I think. And I think that we're too busy looking at the negatives of that. What attachment issues do you have, and what this problem do you have? Okay, well, what about the flip side where you might well have been more harmed should your parents have stayed together? So now you can look back and be like, I was harmed because they're apart. But think about if they were together and you're witnessing that every day of your life.
I don't feel like my harm came from them not being together. It was
some people
from when
make
they
it
were
as
together because I saw the abuse, and that's what's had the effect on me. It's not so much.
Yeah. Most people whose parent wasn't there for whatever reason would have been worse off if that parent was there.
I completely agree. But I don't think society views it that way. Do you ever think about what life would have been should your mum and dad have been together and stuff?
I think I would have had a lot less freedom. Looking at how my siblings grew up in their life, they had a very different life from me. My mum was protective, but I was a bit more of a rebel that I'd do what I want. But my dad would not have let that happen. And I can see that because of how shit went down in that other house. Do you know what I mean? I see them live a life where, you know, they weren't allowed out. They weren't allowed to do things. And my dad actually came to me and said, like, Laura, I need your advice. Like, because your sister is going out and doing all these things. And I was just like, look, you're trying to control her too much. She's at an age where she should be able to go out with her friends to a thing. And it was just that imbalance that they had. So, because he never raised me, he's now coming to me to work out how does he handle his daughter.
But that's nice. He respects your opinion.
My dad actually came to me and said, oh, your sister's really interested in starting a business. Like, message her, talk to her about it. So, because I know that's what you do. So he really respects what I do and what I've done now. But, like, I reckon if I was growing up with that, would I have had that opportunity to really do that? Because I left university and I never had a job. I've always worked for myself. The only job I've ever had is working at McDonald's 1 day a week. And I hated it. And then I've always run businesses with you guys and with my other people from university and stuff. And that's very risky behaviour. That's not something that necessarily I feel like I would have had in my Nigerian household if that was the case. I feel like it would have been like, well, how are you actually going to earn real money? Whereas I was always a bit more bootstrappy and creative with the way that you deal with things until you make it. So I feel like seeing my brother and sister's upbringing and how they've turned out.
You wouldn't have wanted it for yourself.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those ones where they've had that feeling, but they've got a different relationship with him. So I know that they're like, oh, daddy. Whereas when I say the word, I've never actually spoken to my dad enough to be able to say dad to him and it feel normal. I used to just call him his name.
I don't say to my dad.
See, I've always called my dad.
Yeah,
I've never thought anything of it, but I did it out of respect as opposed to Like, I did it for manners, should I
Yeah.
say? Even out, not quite respect.
I
I did
think
it out of manners.
it's always felt odd to me. Like,
It feels weird.
calling people by those titles. So like referring to my dad as saying, oh yeah, like my dad, or even saying grandma and granddad or uncle. Those titles for people who ain't actually in my life feel weird saying.